Hello and welcome to Froward Point, where this evening I'm going to be shooting some seascape images with a new Nikon D850. Okay, let's make a start then. So I'm going to get the camera set up on the tripod, find my composition, then I'll start adding things like filters, and also I'll talk you through how I'm going to use some of the features of the Nikon D850. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got the camera all set up on the tripod now. So you'll notice I've got it in a vertical orientation. So this is to allow me to use the rocks here in the foreground as they lead out into the sea, out towards that larger rocky island. So it's a kind of leading line through the image. But before I start talking about aperture and shutter speed, there's a couple of things I want to do to the camera first. So one of the first things I want to do is turn on Snap Bridge on my mobile phone. Now it's already paired to my camera, and the reason I do this is it allows me to take the GPS data from my phone and tag it straight into the image. So this means that when I get home and I import the images into Lightroom, all the GPS data is there already and I can see exactly where I took that image. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my Nikon MC36A remote release. This allows me to operate the camera without actually having to touch it. I can open and close the shutter, and I can also set the shutter length as well, so it's a handy bit of kit. Okay, so now that I've got the camera all set up, I'm ready to start taking some pictures. So as you can see, I'm on live view at the back of the screen at the moment, and I can see what my composition is going to be. So the first thing I do is get my camera to focus. Now, there's a couple of ways I can do that, but the way I'm going to use it tonight is I'm going to use some of the touch capabilities of the Nikon D850. I'm simply going to touch the point that I want, and the camera's focused. Now that I've selected my focus point, I can actually select the split view on the back of the LCD screen, and I can look at two different areas of the image at the same time, check things are sharp. Okay, so I'm ready to start taking pictures now. I've got my phone connected to my camera, I've got my cable release plugged in, I've got my focus point selected, I've checked it. Let's take an image and we'll see what filters we need to add. Okay, so my base image looks quite good, but I'm going to add my leaf filter circular polarizer. Now this does two things. It takes some of the glare off the water, and it also helps some of that turquoise colour from the sea really become quite punchy. And then I'm going to put a grad filter in just to kind of balance the exposure in the sky. Okay, so I've got the filters in place. It's my leaf filter circular polarizer, and I've also opted for a 3-stop medium edge graduated neutral density filter. But I've also had a look at the back of the LCD screen and I can see the live histogram. I've got a bit more room to the right, so I'm just going to adjust the exposure time just so I can expose to the right a bit more. Okay, so I'm just about ready to take my final image now, but let me just tell you about some of the camera settings I've got. So I've got it set for ISO 64, so that's one of the good things about the D850. It's got quite a low ISO, and that's going to give me the best dynamic range in my final image. I've also got it set at f13, and it's an exposure time of about 2 seconds. But before I put on a neutral density filter to give me a longer exposure, I'm just going to check the back of the screen just to check that my last image was acceptably sharp in the areas that it needed to be. And to do that, I'm going to use a new touchscreen facility to pinch and zoom. Okay, that's all looking sharp. Now, the only thing I need to do now is I just need to put in the leaf filter's little stopper. So I'm going to go for the little stopper because at 2 seconds, and according to the handy leaf filters app, 2 seconds is going to give me a 2-minute exposure time with a little stopper, which is just the right amount of time I want for this particular scene. Okay, we're almost there. I'm just about ready to pull the trigger on this final image now. 2 things I've got to do. First of all, I've got to dial in 2 minutes onto my remote release. And the second thing is, I'm going to close this eyepiece cover at the back here to stop any light leaking from the sun that's setting there behind me. Okay, let's take the shot. So, mirror up, and then start the timer. Okay, so I've managed to get the image that I came for. I've had a look at it in the back of the LCD screen and it looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to hang about and maybe take a few other pictures, but I think the sun's down now. I didn't quite get the evening light that I was looking for, and there's still quite a lot of low cloud, but I'm going to hang about just in case and take a few extra frames. But I'll see you back home where we'll process the image and we'll print them off and we'll have a look at them in a bit more detail. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, that's me back home now, and I'm ready to process and print one of those images. So in order for me to get them into Lightroom, I have to convert them to DNG. Now, the reason I have to do this is that certainly at the time of making this video, Adobe still haven't updated Lightroom for native D850 support. So I've got to use their DNG converter utility to convert the NEF files to DNG files, and then I can import those into Lightroom. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to make the modifications to the image, and I'll come back to you and I'll tell you how I've processed it. Right, so that's one of the images processed now. So I'm going to pop up the unprocessed image on the screen, and then that's going to follow with the processed image. Now the processing that I've done on that image is fairly simple, fairly light touch in Lightroom. I've adjusted the exposure, I've cooled down the white balance just a little bit, I've adjusted the highlights, the shadows, added a little bit of clarity. I've also used a graduated filter in Lightroom just to allow me to add some separate clarity to the cloud level and just darken that down a little bit. I've also used a radial filter on the very most foreground rock. It was quite bright in the frame, so I've just used that just to bring back the exposure just a fraction. And then I've added things like sharpening and a little bit of dehaze. So I keep things fairly simple in that department. Now, if you would like a video of me doing a bit of a deeper dive into my post-processing, do leave me a comment below, and I'll try and get one of those sorted out for you. So now that the image is processed, it's time to print it. Okay, so here we have the final image in printed form, and I think it's come out quite well. Now, if you want to see this image in a bit more detail, I will be posting it on my blog. There'll be a link in the video description below, and also a link at the end of this video. Now, it's quite a nice image. No, it's not one for the portfolio, but I thought it came out quite well, and it was a good test of the Nikon D850. Now, I actually shot this image after I finished shooting video at Froward Point. So the sun was quite a bit further down, and it actually was a 3-minute exposure, but I still actually had the image slightly underexposed. However, when I imported it into Lightroom, I was able to bring back the exposure and bring back the shadow areas as well with no loss of image quality. So really impressed by the dynamic range of the files that this camera is producing. So far, the Nikon D850 has proven to be a very, very good camera. So just before I close out in this video, I just want to have a quick chat about printing. So for those who've been watching my videos for a while now, you'll notice that I've started including printing as part of the story that I tell in these videos. And people have said in the comments how much do they enjoy seeing that bit of the video. Now, I can't take credit for coming up with that idea. I have to give a big shout out to a fellow landscape photographer who also has a YouTube channel, a chap called Nigel Danson, and he was the one that inspired me to start including the printing process as part of the stories that I tell on my channel. So I'm going to give Nigel a special shout out. There will be a link at the end of this video to his channel, so I ask you that it's well worth taking some time and checking out the wonderful content that Nigel produces. I do hope you enjoyed that video. Hopefully it's given you an insight into my landscape photography workflow and also how I'm using the Nikon D850 to help me capture those images. It's a powerful camera and it's got lots of great features, and the files that it's producing are pretty epic, so I'm very, very happy with it. So if you did like this video, why don't you click on the like button and also leave me a comment. I do try and read and reply to each and every one of them, so I do appreciate you taking the time to leave me a message. If you did like this video and you want to see more, then do hit the subscribe button and also click on the bell icon. That way you'll get notified as soon as I post up a new video. But until the next one, I'll see you then.